welcome to another edition of What's Between Us. It's a relationship show I've been doing. I started it in 2005 to over 20 years ago, but I'm reviving it because there's a lot to be talked about with regards to the way that relationships have evolved with the introduction of the internet and online dating and divorces and expectations and women in the workforce as compared to, at least for baby boomers like myself and Mike, we're not raised in that. And we've got lots of changes. They need to be talked about. And so I am bringing together three gens. We've got the baby boomers, myself and Mike, and we've got his son, who is a millennial, Jackson. And then we have my nephew, Max, who's a Gen Z. So let's take it away. I think to this time we should start it off with the youngest member. Max, why don't you tell us what you think about online dating and expectations and how your experience with it?
Yeah. So I've used a couple of the apps. I think in like Hinge is one. I've gone on a couple of dates from Hinge and they've been nice. None of them have gone on to be very serious, but I think it's a good, helpful way when you're in a city like New York, where I am, to meet people that you otherwise would never meet. So for me, I go to work and on the weekends, I have like my same small group of friends. The options are go meet some girl at a bar, which sometimes works, or meet some girl through a mutual friend, or you could, go on these apps. So it kind of adds another channel. Um, in terms of the expectations, people will sometimes downplay these apps, but I have met a couple of people. I know two that met her husband or like future husband. They just got engaged on Hinge. And actually, one of my good friends, uh, they're dating and they also met on Hinge. So I actually have heard some success stories from it. Um, I think as you get older, the sort of expectation changes. Like in college and like high school, people were using Tinder to like go on a date or do something probably less wholesome. But when you're older, like 25 or so, which I am, then and you're actually trying to look to date somebody in like a city, it's actually quite helpful sometimes.
How long do you text back and forth with each other or whatever? I don't know. I've never used that one before you actually see them in person.
For me, I'll send like, three or four exchanges and then of like messaging, like some kind of intro comment, then like a follow-up comment, like maybe tell a joke, and then say, hey, it'd be great to grab a drink or something one of these nights. And then if they say yes, then you're like, great. And then I usually ask for their phone number and then come up with some plan. Usually something like casual, not like a dinner or anything, maybe like grab a coffee or a drink sometime on the weekend.
I used to advise on my show was if you wait too long, because you can come back with these witty little responses, and by the time you get to see them, they're the second coming of Jesus, and they're not, and so you end up getting disappointed. And that's kind of where I was going with the great expectations, or that both of them have. If you do it for too long, I feel like she thinks you're just the most amazing person, and she's always disappointed because I mean, everybody's great, but they're not as great as as you envision in your head. So Jackson, how about you with that sort of online dating?
Yeah, I think the benefit of dating apps in general is that it exposes you to people you would never really interact with socially, which can be good or bad. I mean, you look at like prior eras and people would socialize with people within their same sort of socioeconomic group, I mean, people you went to school with, etc. Now you can interact with everyone. And the problem is that you may not have as much in common with people who are from different socioeconomic sort of strata than you. So yeah, there's good and bad. I've met people who have had successful relationships that have started through dating apps. So it's not like a complete kill zone out there, but it is more uncommon, I would say. I think what he said earlier in that if you start casual, it's probably best
Yeah.
coffee, drinks, etc. Like going to dinner is a terrible first date. I
Oh,
mean, you
that's
want to be
awful.
in, like in a captive environment, paying for dinner, which in this economy is not an inconsequential expense, with someone you really don't even know. I mean, it just it's not really a ideal sort of situation.
What you put on your profile and what they put on their profile, is it tend to be very trustworthy? If there is any lying, what category of their profile do they generally not is forthcoming about? Let's just say.
Forthcoming. I feel like, I mean, people talk a lot about catfishing. I don't know if you know what catfishing is.
Explain that.
So, catfishing is a practice in which people will misrepresent themselves in online dating. So, well, oftentimes it's like a visual sort of thing. So, somebody who's um, out
Not
of shape.
nearly as beautiful as their picture.
Sure, sure. Like there's a lot of creative camera work, filters,
Filters.
sure. Um, so that can be an issue. Like I find it's better just to keep things light. I mean, like in terms of like making a profile, like being overly serious is just
Yeah.
it's just too heavy.
Mm-hmm. But you were saying that there's a significantly higher number of men on these
Oh
apps
yeah,
than
yeah.
there
For
is women.
Tinder specifically, the published figures state that 75% of their user base is male.
Oh.
That would make sense.
Whoa,
Yeah.
that makes sense. Okay, back to you there, Mike. We don't want to leave you out here. Have you ever done online dating? And if
Oh,
so, what
sure.
was your experience like?
I met my second wife online, and it was mainly because I was living in Boise, Idaho. I was working for Southwest Airlines and based in Oakland, so I wanted to expand my pool of available because, Boise is a very small town within certain silos, I mean, it's and most of those people knew me, and it was sort of not a fertile ground to pursue because of my ex-wife, who was very prominent in the community. So
Oh.
so I looked to uh, start dating in like Oakland, San Francisco. I met a girl who was from San Francisco, and we started a relationship. And I think like Jackson says, it exposes you just to a lot more people, and it that you're not gonna that you're not normally going to meet. And in my world, to date a flight attendant, who are really the only people of the opposite sex that you're going to meet at work, is a hazardous proposition, as has become pretty much the norm all throughout, the economy with the Me Too movement, whatever. I dated a woman who, went to med school and everything else, and I knew her in college. She graduated when she was 19. I'm used to a certain level of
Intelligence.
intellectual capability and awareness and interests. And I wasn't going to find that in the flight attendant community. And
You
I knew
might
that.
have, you just might not have met her now. Now,
No,
let's
no,
not make
no.
these broad, sweeping
Well, yeah,
things.
then you got to sort out the ones that are on Prozac, which is about 55% of them.
No
So,
way. Seriously,
oh,
why?
oh, oh, yeah, California. Half the women in California are on Prozac.
Because they're depressed? That's a depressant, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's an antidepressant. Oh, absolutely.
Can't imagine.
They follow the stats. So for me, it was a way to sort of extend, the marketable pool to people that I would feel comfortable dating. And this girl had, she had a master's degree and everything else. So, I mean, it sort of made sense to try that route. I think for guys especially, and I don't mean to sound shallow, but we tend to look at the visual,
Oh, yeah,
physical first,
that's natural.
and if there's no
If you're not
immediate,
attracted to them,
immediate interest, that sort of eliminates, probably, a good 80% of what's online. So at least, when I was looking, as I've been here as a single man in Madison, Wisconsin, I found, and it's kind of tough because, you get older. I mean, I'm 70. And
you
if you're
don't look
trying to
it.
if you're trying to date somewhere within, your plus or minus 10, no, maybe minus 10, not plus 10, age wise, it's just not visually appealing.
No, no, no. I felt the same way. That's what about you men. That's why I quit dating a
Right,
long time ago.
right, right. So,
I don't want to be some old man.
Right, right, right. So, but,
I know that
it's
sounds
because,
awful. Not
I
because
mean,
you're a good
well,
looking
it
old
does
man, but
sound
most men are,
superficial. It does
yeah.
sound superficial, and it does sound really, that is what the media attraction is. And if there's, I mean, I'm a fairly active guy. I tend to walk about 5 to 6 miles a day, work out. And I'm not going to be attracted to someone who's clearly overweight and doesn't have that same value set as I do. So, that's what I'm attracted to. And so you just don't see too much of that.
I'm going to go back to because you have experienced actually meeting somebody and marrying them that you met online.
Right.
How many women do you think you had coffee with or whatever met up with when you were online after you got divorced the first time and before you
Oh,
met
about a
your second?
dozen, about a dozen. And most of those were in Boise.
And
Most of
did
those were in Boise.
was it okay? So what did you find? Could you like immediately when you got together with them realize that this was not going to be a match, or how did it?
Well, it's one of these things. They're almost always going to be single mothers, and
Mm-hmm.
that comes. I mean, you came from mixed marriages. Your dad and your
Mm-hmm.
stepmom.
And I've been dating for whatever.
Right, right, right.
And
So
I'm a single mom.
you're always going to be dealing with that. So everyone I was dealing with was, a single mother, of one or two or three or four kids, and that goes into the equation. So you're trying to sort out, man, is this girl really rocking my world, or is this somebody who's going to be, someone who's going to be a burden, and I'm going to have to deal with her four kids and my two kids getting together and trying to work out. The closest I came to getting married was a gal who had a son, who I met actually in my condo complex where I was living at the time before I bought a house. And I think I
Now,
think
how
that's
did you meet her? In
she walked
conversation or
into
what
my
happened?
garage trying to get her bicycle tire pumped up because she saw I was working on my car. So
See,
so
now
anyway,
that's the way. See, you guys, that's the way people used to make meet each other. Do you see?
well,
It
yeah, yeah,
happenstance.
and she was a very pretty girl. I mean, we had a lot in common. I really liked her. It was immediate connection right from the get-go, and you just sort of know, I mean, you've been around, you've dated a bunch of people, you sort of know when you got, there's a little bit of a zing there, and but there was an issue, a major issue that I couldn't really ever get over, and that she had, cheated on her husband with another guy. And anytime you are in that situation, evaluating a prospective mate, you got to look at, is this someone that I can really trust? Because marriage these days is not so much about love; it's a financial business contract, where you're placing half your assets at risk, and unless you are similarly endowed, let me say,
Mm-hmm.
with wealth or with career expectations, you're exposing yourself to significant risk.
Now, I don't want to depress our younger contributors here. Uh, that is a something that you learned over years. I don't think that you would have been that aware of those items when you were these guys' age, right?
No,
I would like you to, since he's not seen that, Jackson, could you bring up that same chart, the chart about how people are
Oh,
meeting,
sure. One
when where
second,
they meet,
please.
and then I want Max, I want you to discuss with Jackson. This is how people meet.
Obviously, I did not make this myself.
That's a crazy graph.
I mean, it tracks with
Was
everything
that
I've
part of
seen.
COVID? Do you think COVID had a big?
Oh, I think COVID had a big thing to do with that general trend. But I mean, I think this was accelerating regardless. I mean, it just like God, was it the smartphone came out in 2007, and
Yeah.
in every industrialized country that it was introduced, fertility rates just cratered immediately afterwards. Because I mean, you go to any major like airport terminal or any place where you see every kind of person and nobody's talking to each other. I mean, they're engrossed in their phones. And years ago, before this technology existed, I mean, people would socialize. And I think technology is a huge component of it. I think the problem with COVID is that through things like remote work and like delivery services, like it became very, very possible just to ensconce yourself at home indefinitely if you wanted to. And I mean, things are so unaffordable. I mean, I don't know how often you go out drinking or if you drink, but I mean, you go like, I mean, you're in New York City. I mean, like, how much is a beer run at just some generic watering hole? I mean, it's not cheap to go out and party.
No, it's not. Uh, But that's what life's about. I mean, so you gotta basically for me, I don't spend anything during the week, and then I do spend when I go out. A beer, for example, in New York is like 12 or $13, and then if you want to get a cocktail or anything, it's like 18, 19. So you can, I mean, typically when you're going out, you're spending like $100
For
at
sure.
like any spot. But it's still like worth it. Like, yeah, this graph is pretty crazy. I think it's got to be COVID related, but anyone who's sitting inside 100% of the time, I think is not setting themselves up for success. You
Oh
still,
no, like if you want to have any kind of success, you have to put yourself out there. I mean, especially as a guy, I mean, the world doesn't give a shit about you. And I mean, anything you want, you have to go out and get it yourself. But I'm curious, when did you graduate from UVA?
2023
2023. So you were in school for
during COVID.
COVID.
Yeah, it
What
was.
was that like? Because I heard stories anecdotally from people that I just know socially, and they said it was just a fever dream to be in that environment with all the insanity.
I think UVA was like a middle ground. So I grew up in Massachusetts, and a lot of my friends went up to NESCAC schools, and all of those schools were like jails during COVID. You were stuck inside, you couldn't do anything. I went to UVA, which is in Virginia. It's sort of in the middle. And I had a bunch of Southern friends who had friends who went to like Auburn or, Mizzou or something like that. And all their Southern friends were just, there were no rules whatsoever. UVA was like a happy middle. We had like a 10-person gathering limit. My fraternity would, like, we'd have like 20-person parties. We would just like hide. It was kind of like high school versus like the big college UVA scene that was non-COVID time. So that was what it was like during 2020. We kind of just snuck around and scaled things down a little bit. And it was actually kind of fun. We made the most of it. It was stressful.
Seems
It
like
kind of sucked, but yeah.
I'm sorry. It seems like there's a lot of regional variance depending where you were nationally. Like,
Yeah.
for instance, like I moved from Arizona to Wisconsin mid 2021, and like in Arizona, people didn't care about COVID. Like there was no like adherence to masking policy
Yeah.
outside of like parts of Phoenix. But in Wisconsin, totally different story. Like it wasn't until like the Russians invaded Ukraine in 2022 that all the COVID pretenses started to get dropped. Like they were really hardcore about it. So I think it does track that someplace like Virginia would be somewhat more laissez-faire about it.
Yeah, it was middle ground from what I could say. Um, Thinking of college though, it is different. I actually think in college there was more pressure around not dating people. Like no one really went on dates when I was in college. It was like a big deal or whatever. You would kind of like hang out or text or invite somebody to like a party. And then like the people that actually did end up dating were like, took it seriously. Post college is very different that I've found like people it's very normal to actually go on dates. I think it's nice. It's refreshing. It's like a good thing. Um,
What about
and
going to fraternity parties? And you didn't have to have dates to go to the fraternity parties?
you'd have like a date function, and so you'd invite a date, but it wasn't like a real thing. It
You
wasn't like
barely hang out with each other at the
no,
party. It's
you
just you need to have somebody there
we
to
would hang
talk.
out with each other, but there wasn't like an expectation like, oh, we're dating or we went on a couple dates. It was like, oh, we went to a date function together and like we had fun. I don't know. That was kind of what it was like.
What was college like for you, Jackson?
I mean, I went to a tiny liberal arts school on the West Coast, a lot of hipsters, a lot of flannel.
Nice.
So Yeah, I would say like socially it was very informal. Like probably like my brother went to Swanee University of the South in Tennessee, and I mean they go to class in suits, and like that is like not my experience in college at all. Very informal. Yeah, like it was not regimented. I mean, obviously, like given the environment, a lot of hyper political correctness. I mean, you have to be on board at least notionally about feminist tropes. Otherwise, you're persona non grata. So, yeah, I mean, it's a social minefield. I mean, you just constantly have to watch what you say.
Oh, it's just now, did people date like Max was saying at your school, or did people like ask people to different functions as
I mean,
dates, or how
I
did
was
it work?
in Greek life. I knew people that were, I mean, we had probably four different fraternities, probably three sororities on campus, and they had their own functions. Again, like that wasn't my experience, but
Hmm.
it was informal. Like people would hang out, they'd go off campus, drink terrible beer in somebody's basement, then the cops would show up 45 minutes late, and they'd go out and eat terrible Mexican food out in town. So like,
That sounds fun, Jackson. I don't
yeah,
know.
no, no, I'm not knocking it at all, but I mean, it was not like this prim and proper sort of experience.
Did you go into Portland very much?
Oh God, yeah. I mean, uh,
Whoa. It sounds like
It's
there's a
an
story.
hour
Yeah.
south. I used
well, it's about 35 minutes from Salem to
or
Portland.
maybe, yeah, 35 minutes. Yeah.
Even then, Portland was really grimy and gross, and like I wouldn't go to Portland now.
I have nicknames for the whole West Coast. You start up north with the beautiful Seattle, then you move down to Poopland, Oregon, then you go to San Francisco, and
Yeah.
then you can follow up at the in the bottom. You can go to Los Angeles, and they all have just gotten the same sort of affliction. And it's awful. It's just gotten gross. It was a beautiful place. I raised my sons in Portland, as you know, outside of Portland, and for 23 years, and I got out of there. Holy Spirit told me to leave, and I sold my house on Craigslist, and here I am in Kansas. No, it's not a great place, unfortunately. It got ruined. But
I have
Salem was a little bit better. You thought Salem was pretty good though while you were
Salem
there.
is just purgatory. I mean, like there's no local color, there's nothing to do other than drink. I don't know. Like I was in Chicago recently for work, and I mean, Chicago gets lots of bad press with cause. And I was in Seattle last year, and man, like Seattle felt way rougher than Chicago did. Like very unsettling in its own way, but I don't want to belabor the point.
Okay, go on, Max.
I think this is a good question. What is the best date that everyone on this call has ever been on?
That's a great question. Look at you,
How do
Max.
you measure
The most
best?
fun that you had, a date that you think back and you say, wow, that was a lot of fun. I'd do that again.
I just walking around, people watching, just social commentary, like, oh, you want to get some ice cream. Like, I mean, it's not regimented. There's no expectation. You just let it flow.
I think that's fair. Yeah. I think one of the best dates I ever went on was this girl that we were in Boston. We went to the North End and we got like pasta at this like nice spot. And then we just spent the rest of the night. We walked for like 3 miles, went into Charlestown, got ice cream, like stopped at this place to get a beer and then like walked all the way across this like bridge again. I think walking is a really good date activity because you get to kind of naturally talk with someone versus like being across from them. You get to see some cool things. Like you can kind of just casually flow any conversation while being somewhat active. I think
And
it's
I think that's exactly right. I mean, like in a way, it's kind of like an audition or a job interview. Like, do you want to spend time with this person? And just seeing like how they react to the world around them, like they're mean to the wait staff. I mean, like that's so unappealing. Like if somebody's like legitimately rude to other people for no reason,
the red flag.
just I don't know.
Max, do you see any resistance from ladies to go out on a coffee date or going out for like lunch or something? I mean, is there an expectation from a lot of the women that you're looking at for, getting, an elaborate dinner, like dropping like $500, which probably isn't that difficult to do in New York City? Is that sort of the expectation level is?
For me, I feel like I always set the expectations and I like will just come up with a plan and say, hey, let's do this. It'll be fun. And if you come with that plan, she's gonna want to go on the date with you and do that. As long as you say like, hey, this will be fun, let's go here and have like a plan, not just like be lazy about it, then it'll be great. And then generally if I like her, we might stop in at like a restaurant or do something. And then if it's worth it, in my opinion, then I'll spend whatever is necessary. I feel like that's not really a blocker.
To chime in from the female's perspective, one thing that women really do like a lot when some also are bothered by if it doesn't happen is they don't like it, and probably men are that way too, but they don't like it when men say, well, whatever, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? What do you want to do?
Yeah, that's
They
true.
love a plan and they love somebody who says, look, this is what we're going to do. Is this okay with you? That'll sound great. Great.
Yeah, you can do anything. You have to have
Yeah.
a plan.
Just
Yeah.
that you have the plan is such a huge part. It seems simple, but that's a huge part of it, Max.
This is where I would want to know where the mines are laid, because is it seen if you come up with a plan as like you're being too controlling? Because there seems to be the feminist, boss babe doesn't want to be told she wants to be part of it. I mean, is that even a thing, or is that just something that is
I
popping up
think
on the
men
internet?
think that more than it really is a thing. Like I started doing this with this one guy that I just was kind of like not do casually dating, and we'd go to dinner, and I decided to just I would tell him what I wanted, and then I would let him order the meal for me. And I know that sounds kind of weird, but I think that's me showing respect for the guy that he can take care of me. I've told him what I want, and I appreciate the fact that he's going to tell the waitress what I want. But the kind of gals you're talking about, Mike, they probably if you did something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, well,
Is that not is that if you're sitting at a table with the gal and she's told you what she wants to order,
I always thought it
but
was polite to let the woman order first, though. I
yeah,
thought that
oh,
was
that's true.
if
That's
I take a
true.
girl out to dinner, she can order what she wants,
Well, yeah, she's
I mean,
telling you,
I don't care.
but the idea was he seemed to appreciate it. I don't know. I said, yeah, you go ahead. You go. I just have him. Yeah, I like that. But anyway, that's just weird. And then opening up doors, love that. Men standing up when women come to the table, or standing up when the woman leaves to go to the restroom. Very unusual in your younger generations. My sons, WB, really drilled it in. One time it was funny because they were like 8 and 6 or something like that. And they saw once brother saw the younger brother starting to stand up, and then he shoved his seat in front of him so he couldn't even stand up. And the older one, who didn't even think of it, stood up and locked his brother out. But I guess is that just incredibly old school?
No, it's not. In fact, I think every woman would appreciate just polite manners. I think it honestly just comes down to do you actually respect who you're going out with? And then if you do, then you're not gonna like, I think she'll just see that and that's good. And then it like the other parts are just manners. Like picking a place to go is good manners. Like having a plan is good man. It's like respectable. Um,
So they're looking for you to lead.
yeah, and I think
Yes.
that's a nice thing. Like,
Yeah.
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 Um,
Yeah.
Are,
What
are
did you have?
most of the women you're dating, Max, are they in finance? Are they in banking? Or are they in law? Or what's
it
the
varies. Definitely varies. I'm not going on like a huge amount of dates, but I'm going on some. And just like overall, I think uh, it doesn't really matter what career they're in. I feel like it just there are certain things that everybody probably appreciates when you go on a date with them. Yeah.
Do you have anything in particular that you're looking for in a gal that you'd like to meet, or anything about her profile that will like trigger you to want to contact her, other than the fact that she's pretty and you're attracted to her?
Values matter to me. So
Like,
you can kind of get a sense of that based off what they put if it's online on their profile. Like someone that's just normal doesn't come off as I think anyone that puts like heavy politics or something into their profile is like even whatever side, honestly, I feel like is like probably not normal. So,
You're just spoiling for a fight.
yeah, basically. You can kind of get a sense. Also, the type of pictures that they have, like if they're wholesome pictures on a dating profile, you can kind of tell. If it's like you can just get a sense. And then most of all, like if you go on a date with someone and they're kind of weird or not smart or like you don't get along, then it's just one date. So
That's why I'm a big believer in the coffee date because you can go and leave if they gross you out. You're not stuck with them. So what about you, Jackson? Come on, come clean with us about
I mean,
some.
I would say you have to have complementary lifestyles. I mean, I have dealt with people who are very politically active. I mean, mostly left-wing people, just based off where I've lived, and I don't know, it's just exhausting dealing with this because like every conversation is a minefield, and it's like, oh, what innocuous thing am I going to say today that's going to set this person off? And like, I don't need that stress in my life. I mean, I get plenty of stress from work. I don't need it on top of that. So yeah, I'd say um just general lifestyle habits. Like I like being physically active, and like I don't really care for somebody who's like really, I don't know, into fast food and doesn't go to the gym. I mean, like, I mean, my dad, I mean, not to gas you up, but I mean, you're in great shape for 70, but that's the sum of your lifestyle decisions. Like, you don't drink soda, you exercise, and these are choices. And it's easy to be thin and svelte when you're 22, but not when you're 35. And like these choices compound over time. So I think both my parents are pretty commendable in that
Pretty in
regard.
good shape, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and not just in terms of exercise, but in watching what you eat and like not smoking, for instance, and making like
Boy,
good life.
smoking is amazing how old people look if they
Oh
smoke.
yeah, yeah.
It's just
I think
amazing. I'd be like,
complete
wait a minute, how
things.
old are you? And I'm like, oh my gosh, we're the same age, and they look like 10 years older than me.
Well, if
At least
you
I
look at
think
like
they do.
old yearbook photos from the 80s, and like
Pardon?
people look so much older back then, and like high schoolers because they hydrated less, they smoked a lot more, and people didn't know about lotion back then.
No, that's true. That's true. That's true. Yeah.
the lotion was the thing that put everyone down the
We
shitter.
do need lotion.
But
Yes. Yes.
I want to ask both you guys, what do you see in the women that number one that I mean, you're talking about values, but what is it about their characteristics? What is it about their upbringing? What about, I mean, religious background or choices or not necessarily politics, but what do you find most welcoming on one hand, and what do you find most off-putting on the other?
Oh, I can tell you right away what's most welcoming. Did they have a positive relationship with their parents, specifically their fathers? If the answer is no, I mean, there are a whole like
There's a whole litany of problems there.
constellation of bad places that can go. Um, yeah, I think it's important to have a good relationship with your parents, or at least be conversant with them. I mean, I think it's a bad sign if they cut them off altogether, and maybe they have cause, but um,
What about
I,
their siblings? Their relationship with their siblings?
I mean, that's such a mixed bag. I mean, like ideally a positive relationship, but like and like people grow apart. Like, you don't necessarily have anything in common with them. But um, for a woman specifically to not have a good relationship with her father, in my experience, that generally tends to end poorly. I don't know. What do you see, Max?
I don't know. I've met girls who don't have great relationships with their dad, and they're actually pretty great. But I think for me, on the values question, Mike, that you asked, for me, one, independent, someone who actually is able to live their life on their own and doesn't need somebody. I have a lot of respect for that. I feel like that's someone that I'd want to be with as well. Someone who has their own goals and are driven. Someone who doesn't gossip a lot, um, because I think that's just a sign of weakness. And yeah, someone who I actually like. I would want to respect the person, like the woman that I'm dating. That's important to me. And then yeah, values. Being a Christian is important to me. Um, and just following a lot of the Christian guidelines, like not judging other people and um, just living.
That's great. Love thy neighbor, do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. Even, I
Yeah.
mean, even if you're not really close to the Lord, it's those are all great characteristics, and you're
So
just
Max, what are your chances of being able to find that in New York City?
Actually, you want to hear a good thing?
like,
A positive
I'd
story.
love to hear a good story. Yeah.
Christianity is actually coming back, especially in New York. There's been a couple of churches that are like overflowing with young people. Um, and it's like they wrote a Wall Street Journal article about it for like my generation specifically, like age 23 to 25. I think it's kind of weird because sometimes it might have gone a little too far. There's now this term called ass mass that people are going to mass to get ass, which I think is not why you go to mass at all. I think it's bad, but that's better than no one going to mass. So I think that's good. I don't play with anybody at mass. I feel like that's not what you're supposed to do. But I think there's good chances. Yeah, I think there's a lot of good
small
people.
group Bible studies, Max, that could be good.
Yeah, but I wouldn't go to a Bible study to meet somebody. I feel like that's the anti-purpose of the Bible study. Well, I don't know.
Yeah, that's true.
But I
They
think
do
it's
have
a
singles
good
groups
one.
at a lot of these bigger churches, and they have them based on your age group. If you ever wanted to try it, they like go bowling. I did it one time, and they do different things. I don't know if it's something you'd
Yeah,
ever want to try, but yeah.
yeah.
Jackson hasn't found that same experience here in Madison. Jackson, you want to
I
relate yours?
tried RCIA for 6 months, the Rite of Christian Initiation of Adults in doc for the Catholic Church. I ended up not going through with it, but I mean the congregation was mostly elderly. But conversely, I have a friend, Marine buddy, who's down in Albuquerque, and he's big into SSPX Society of St. Pius X, and been to a couple of their services, and it's very youth oriented, a lot of young families, a lot of kids. So,
And he
um,
married an ex-nun, right?
yeah, yeah, he's a
Yeah,
interesting
that's the one you were
guy.
telling us about. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the Protestants that have a lot of good churches out there, non-denominational churches. I just find the organized churches, especially that one, if you do a lot of history, I'm a big into history buff. I trace everything way back. I just it's not for me. But yeah, and then no, Max, you've been to both Protestant and Catholic ones, and but you're starting to go to a Catholic one there for the mass, or what's your
I
situation?
always just go to the church that I feel I resonate with, wherever that is. So,
Yeah, that's the best way
in
to go.
at college, it was a Protestant church, and then in DC when I lived there, it was a Catholic church. And then in New York, I've been going to some other Catholic churches, and they've just been good for me.
Great, great. That's one thing that's really nice about the Catholic Church. I remember this was so weird at camp because I went to camp up in Minnesota, in Brainerd, and
I went too. Can't,
yes, you
yeah,
went
same
there
thing.
too, didn't you? You went to
Yeah,
Lincoln, didn't you?
yeah,
Yeah.
same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, so but it was on Sunday, they'd have this non-denominational little get together with everybody around the campfire. But some of the kids got to go to their church and got to get on a bus, go meet up with the guys from the guys camp and go to church off campus. And I'm like, how come these Catholic people get to do that? Because I never met Catholics and until I got to college, really, because I went to a private Episcopalian prep school, and then and all the Catholics, I found out later, were going to Catholic school. So that high school, so they didn't go there. But yeah, I thought that was the weirdest thing. But what I'm getting to is that Catholics, they believe that you have to go to church every Sunday. So I would think that you would meet more people that way.
Well, I go to church every Sunday, so it's true.
You go to church every Sunday because you like to go to church every Sunday, but their religion, they actually think it's a sin if you don't go to church every Sunday. At least that's what I thought. Could be wrong. Been wrong
Yeah, you
before.
have to take communion.
That's right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like to take communion every once in a while.
Okay, well, like Lisa, what were your favorite dates that you've ever been on?
Favorite dates I've ever been on. Well, this was really fun. My ex-husband did. For my birthday, he had his friend come pick me up at the apartment and take me to the airport. And he drove down to La Jolla, got this beautiful room overlooking the water, and surprised me at the airport. And so had the makings of a great date. But I will caution everybody to not make the same mistake my ex-husband did, which is he had such great expectations and that it was going to be so wonderful that no matter what I did, I couldn't live up to what he was expecting. So we get into one fight and then I wouldn't talk to him for the whole weekend. Or he wouldn't talk to me for the whole weekend.
Mm.
It was a both a mutual not talking. It was awful. I didn't like being married. It wasn't good for me. Probably mostly my fault, but I don't know how to argue because I never had dates in high school. I didn't know how to do that. Apparently there's a way to fight and a way not to, which is another good topic to discuss. Did you have a constructive way to fight when you were married, Mike? Or is it okay, would you have any recommendations on what's a constructive way to agree
Well,
with your
they say you should
spouse?
never go to sleep mad. And to me, I can't stay up and argue when I'm tired because I'll say something and it'll only make things worse. So to me, it's like, hey, let's talk about this in the morning after when I get some sleep because I just don't. When I'm tired, I'm ready to go to bed. I don't want to mess with that stuff. So my best date was
Nice.
probably my first date with Jackson's mom. And we had an immediate connection that I'd never felt before. And it was just one of those things where, everything sort of clicked, intellectually, we got each other's jokes, finished each other's sentences, we like the same movies. And it's just the kind of thing that you really can't, you wouldn't have known that before you meet the person, but when you meet that person, when you find it, it's really kind of elevating.
Can you tell me the details on how you met her?
Well, Hopkins was a small community. It's only 2,000 undergrads when I was there. It's probably almost tripled by now. Um, and so everybody knew each other. There weren't a lot of very good-looking girls. In fact, running joke was that Hopkins women were once men who worked their balls off. And so Leslie, Jackson's mom, was very cute, very precocious, very petite, very trim, and she was a swimmer, so she was very lithe, very athletic. But she was bright. She was brilliant. I mean, she started Hopkins when she was 16. She graduated when she was 19. So she was very, very bright. And I think that was what I was probably most attracted to was her intelligence and her wit. And she got me, and not that I was as smart as she was, but we just, what, it when you see it kind of thing, it was just the kind of thing where, I couldn't see spending time with anybody else.
Did she
It's like,
make you feel
why?
better about yourself? I think that's really what most people, if you get down to it,
I
want
would
to be with
say,
somebody who makes you feel like you're amazing because they adore you so much.
well, I think it was sort of mutual, because I appreciated her intelligence. I mean, she was pre-med at Hopkins, which is probably about as grueling a regimen as you can go through, or you could go through back in the 70s. So, there was immediate respect for her diligence and her skill. And we took some courses together, and it was just something that all I can say is, when you know it when you see it and when you feel it. And until you get there, I mean, I couldn't see myself really up until the time I married her with being with anybody else because there was nobody who I had that same sort of connection with. And I think, we did a lot of stuff together. We tested ourselves a lot. We rode our bikes from Baltimore to LA. Well, actually, I picked up in
Right.
Chicago.
Wow.
That's
Yeah,
pretty
yeah.
cool.
If you can get through that, And then went in the Navy, and I was, with Noel out there in California. And when she was going through her residency in psychiatry in San Francisco, and I was going through my, Navy thing, we're going through deployments and everything else. And most marriages don't survive that with one person doing that. Most residencies, if you're married going into residency, you're going to end up being divorced because of the time constraints. But I think the fact that we had that deep connection that we had established. So, I mean, for both you guys, both of the eventually you guys will find that girl that will just,
But
just
apparently, Mike, apparently, and I want you to pull up the next graph again, Jackson. Apparently, people in these generations are not finding people, and they're not getting together, and they're not reproducing to match up with our generation. And that's what we really need to talk about, and what give each other a break. Everybody's got such high expectations,
well,
and
I think
girl needs to be
Max
that
has
way.
got time because the women they talk about peak sexual market value is about 23. So Max is 25. So the gals he's probably dating are probably adjacent to that. Um,
It's
but
also the best dating market in the country for men. New York City, I mean, the gender ratio is skewed in your favor. I mean, like the worst is probably San Francisco, but like you are in the best possible position to succeed.
Yeah.
Because yeah, so
I
Gen
actually didn't
Z,
date anybody when I was in like until I was like in college. I didn't have my first any serious relationship until after college. So this graph is
and you're
probably
not
pretty
abnormal. You're
decent.
not abnormal. That's
Yeah.
pretty normal.
But I thought that Mike, you had a nice point there. I'm gonna think about that for a while. But yeah, finding the right kind of click is really important. It sounds like you really had that with Jackson's mom too. So congrats on finding that.
well, it
It didn't end
for a
well,
little while,
but
about
that
10
sounds
years.
wonderful. You think you've been married for
But
50
I mean,
years. That was a great story.
some people go through their lives and never find it at all. And so they
That's true.
live lives of, quiet desperation. It's like Paul McCartney found the love of his life and he lost it, but I mean, it's something that, fulfilled him for the rest of his life, that feeling of finding that person that you were perfectly matched with. It's like that's life, nothing lasts forever. But if you have it for a little while, then you got to feel lucky.
You'll recognize it if you find it again, Mike.
Yeah, you will. You truly
So
will.
it's to find it, to recognize it. If you envision, your sister did this, and I think this is so amazing. Your cousin, my other niece, said to your sister, do you know the story, Max?
No?
My other three siblings, they all have only one daughter. And so the daughters are kind of like a little bit as much close as you can get their sisters because they don't have any sisters. So her older sister, Noel's daughter, said to Meg, your older sister, about 5-6 years ago or something, they were talking. She said, I want you to visualize who it is you want to be with. What's he like? Describe him to me. And she did. She described what he did for a living, what he looked like. And then she said, okay, now what's his name? And she said, his name is James. She went along in her life and she met this most amazing guy that she eventually married. His name was Trip. At some point, he told her his real name was James. And it turned out perfectly. She
I
visualized
did
it.
do that, yeah.
So you should visualize, all three of you men. If Mike, you want to get married again, visualize who it is. I'm the same way. No, no, don't. That dog don't hunt. I'm not
Done it.
playing that game
Two-time
anymore.
loser. So I'm
I
sorry.
agree. I never. I'm only one time. Well, kind of two times. But anyway, but no, visualize. And I was anybody watching this show. I hope you're enjoying it. But visualize who it is you want to be with. Get real detail. What they look like. What business they're in. Um, how they make you feel about yourself when you're with them. What kind of sense of humor do they have? Are they a dog person or a cat person?
Yeah.
things like that. And don't get too obsessed with what, like Jackson said, politics and that sort of thing, because that's just, it's you're trying to fill a hole in your heart, in my opinion, that needs for you to find out, get into a relationship with our creator. That's what I say. Get into a relationship with our creator, because
That's
that
true.
a lot of the girls and the women that I know that are real die hard, mostly liberal, they really have no interest in ever discovering anything about or who created them or anything. It's unfortunate.
The most critical thing is for a guy is finding a woman who is fully invested in her feminine. Because I think there's a natural balance in the world of yin and yang. Knowing Jackson and meeting Max today, I think they're both guys that wanna lead. They want to be the protector, they want to be the defender, and they want to, set the course. And finding a woman who will accept that value system, I think is important, because if you're constantly fighting each other, for position, for dominance, I don't think it ends well. And because that's not what you want to come back home to every day. You don't want to come back after you've been out there slaying dragons all day. Come back to fighting with your mate about, what vacation you're going to go on to, or, or anything else that has to do with, the relationship. So finding a woman who is in her feminine, who is going to want to be a mother, who's going to want to, nurture your kids, and so that you can be the man, be the guy, the provider who's going to go out there and provide for your family, so that she can stay at home with your kids. I mean, it sounds kind of strange for a boomer to say that stuff, because I was raised to believe that wasn't desirable. What was desirable is you have this co-partnership where you both had your own careers. But I think from my experience is that rarely works. And what works is that there's one leader, and that's usually going to be the man. And that's what you guys were built for. And finding a girl, lady, woman who will revel in that role that you were going to allow her to take, I think is essential to your happiness and her happiness. Because what I see out there today is a lot of very angry women who've joined the business world and hate their life. They hate the work, they hate the accountability, they hate what guys, the competition, the things stuff that guys thrill or thrive in, and that's the difference between men and women, that I think that feminism has tried to subsume, that's tried to tell us a lie that, well, no, everybody's the same, everybody can do the same thing. Well, I don't think that works.
Been a great conversation. And I appreciate all the points that everyone's made. I feel like it's been quite insightful.
Let me just make one more point, and that is what Mike said is going to be offensive to a lot of women your generation. Because they're like, I think in
I know. I
that
don't care.
you're so dead on right.
I don't
You're
care.
completely right.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, our generation, my generation, was raised watching mom be able to stay home and take care of the kids, but yet we were told by the media that we had to go out and slay the dragons and compete with our husbands, and it did not work out well. Both of us are divorced. You're divorced twice. I might as well be. But anyway, it's but to be told, their generation, who they have been raised since they were little, to see it and also to expect it, that they're going to make as much money, if not more money, than their spouse. It is a recipe, and that might be for that other graph that you had, about the countries where we're not replacing our, we're
That's
just,
right.
let's, you don't need to show it again. We're not replacing our own children. We're not
Right.
replacing
Right.
ourselves. And that's
And they're
because
running out of time.
the women are stressed because they're trying to keep up with what they were told were expected to do.
Right.
And to be told that I'm just going to be able to stay home and take care of the kids and my husband's going to make the money, that some women in your generation might find that, but a lot of women might think that is just wonderful. And everybody needs a place. The kids need to be watched and need to be taken care of and cared for. And the wife needs to be loved, and the husband needs to be respected and honored. And he needs to be the leader of the family. And I totally am in agreement with that.
And the
But
woman needs to be cherished.
and yes, it says that in the Bible. It says that men are to love their wives and women
Right.
are to respect their husbands, because that's just as important to a woman is being loved as it is being respected. Okay, one more comment that you'd like to say, and then we're going to end the show. Okay, Max.
I agree. Yeah. I think overall you need two people to build a life and you should complement each other. So whether that's yeah, one and not doing the same roles, but doing like a puzzle piece fitting together to do everything that you need to have a good life. And then hopefully you can complement each other um, and not overlap and then compete on the same surface area. Don't know.
What about you, Jackson? Any final comments?
No, no, I don't have anything further.
What your dad was saying about when he met your mom and finishing each other's sentences, laughing at the same jokes, just being on the same energy level. You know, when you're with somebody, even if it's a friend, and you're both are just, you can't come up with, we can't stop laughing. He says
Sure.
something funny or she says something funny and you say something and you're just laughing, your stomach hurts. That would be the nirvana. That would be a wonderful thing. Just a second, I want to just end it real quick in prayer. To your Heavenly Father, we want to thank you for bringing us all together, and we want to guide us and give us discernment and safety and joy for everybody on this and all the people watching it. This we pray in your precious Son, Yeshua, Jesus' name. All right. Thank you very much. We will talk again and continue the conversation because there's so much to talk about.
Mike Jackson, this was really fun. It's great to meet you both.
Hey, Max, it was fun. Yes,
Likewise.
meeting you too. Take care.
Yeah, and thanks, Lisa, for putting this together.
All right. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Good night, y'all.